Christy Bell hadn't always been a recluse. There was a time when her days were filled with coffee shops, subway rides, and back-to-back therapy sessions in a high-rise office in downtown Kansas City. She'd been good at her job, maybe too good. Every story, every trauma, stuck to her ribs like wet cement. Her clients left lighter. She left heavier. Eventually, it broke her down. No one saw it happen but her. So she left. She bought a small log cabin deep in the Ozarks National Forest, far from pavement, far from cell towers, far from noise. Just her, the trees, and Dookie. Dookie was a lean orange tabby with white stripes and a tail that curled like a question mark. He'd been with her since grad school. Most cats kept their distance, watched from windows or counters. Not Dookie. He followed Christy everywhere, even down the narrow trail to the spring out back, trotting along like a tiny orange soldier. Life out here had rhythm. Coffee at dawn, firewood chopped before noon, hiking or reading in the afternoon, dinner at dusk, then silence. The kind of silence that felt clean. Christy slept better than she ever had. No cars, no crying clients, no alarms or sirens, just wind and firewood crackling and Dookie purring on her lap. It was peace. For a whole year, nothing broke that rhythm. Peaceful, predictable, soul healing. That was until the tapping started. It happened one night in November. The windows were fogged up from the cold, but the fire inside was warm. Christy sat by the hearth, book in hand. Dookie curled beside her with one paw over his eyes when something tapped the wall. Just one sharp tap. She froze, listening. Another tap, closer this time, just outside the living room window. Not the wind, not a branch. Dookie lifted his head and stared at the wall, ears turning forward. He didn't bolt, didn't hiss, just watched. Then, slow and calm, he hopped off the couch and climbed onto the windowsill, peering through the glass. Christy grabbed the shotgun her father had passed down to her a few years ago from beside the door and stepped onto the porch. Light snow dusted the steps. The pines stood tall under the moonlight. Nothing moved. No prints, no sound, but the wind threading through the branches. She went back inside, bolted the door, and tried to shake it off. The next night, it came again. This time, tapping followed by a long, slow scrape across the logs, like something was testing the wood. Dookie didn't flinch, but he didn't stay still either. He moved from the window to the loft, taking his spot on the top beam, tail twitching slow and steady. Christy checked outside again. No tracks, no signs of life, just the same thick woods and cold air, and that uneasy pressure building up in her gut, the kind of feeling that made you keep your back to the wall and turn every light on. By the fourth night, the sounds had changed. Less tapping, more movement, footsteps walking along the porch, slow and heavy, something sniffing near the windows. Christy didn't check this time. She sat on the floor with her back against the wall, Dookie above her on the beam, eyes locked on the window like a statue. In the morning, there were tracks. Not a bear, not a cougar. Long and wide, like a human foot, but with claws. Long claws at the tips, unnatural enough that she had to bend down and check again, just to make sure she was seeing them right. She didn't call anyone. She didn't have service out here, and she liked it that way. But now it felt like she'd made a mistake. She got more firewood ready, boiled more water, loaded her shotgun, and sat the box of ammo in a ready position beside the door. That night, she saw it. Not all of it, just the shape. It stood behind the tree line, maybe 30 feet back, shoulders hunched, arms long, legs bent like a dog's, but too tall to be any animal she'd ever seen. The porch light hit its eyes, and they flashed yellow, like glass in the sun. It didn't move. Just stood there slow, swaying back and forth, half hidden, like it knew she was watching. Dookie had been sitting in the windowsill again. When the thing moved, Dookie shifted his weight and leapt to the couch armrest, still facing the woods, still silent, observant. Christy didn't sleep that night. She sat with the shotgun across her lap and stared into the trees until sunrise. The next evening, She thought it was gone. No tapping, no movement. But just after midnight, it came back. She'd been in the kitchen, putting out scraps for the compost bin, when she heard something hit the wall hard. Not a tap, a bang, like a shoulder slamming into the side of the cabin. Dookie leapt down from the counter and darted under the table, low and alert, ears pinned back. Another bang, closer to the door. Christy backed toward the hallway, breathing sharp, shotgun raised. A shadow passed in front of the window, massive and fast. A loud, terrifying growl rolled through the wood, the kind of growl that didn't belong to anything she knew. It shook the floor under her boots. The hairs on her arms stood up. She quickly ran into her bedroom and shut the door, heart pounding, breath short. She didn't turn on the light, just slid to the floor and crawled under her bed, shotgun in the ready position. All of a sudden, a loud crash came from the living room area, the sound of the front door being smashed in from the outside. A few minutes went by with only the sound of the door creaking and swaying from the wind. From under the bed, she could see the bottom of the door and hear every creak of the old floorboards in the living room. The creature was moving around out there, heavy sniffing, grunting. It started walking towards her room, the sound of its claws scraping against the wooden floor of the cabin. She held her breath when she heard it stop just near her bedroom door. She could see the large shadow from under the door, the low sounds of sniffing and heavy breathing. Deep, heavy breaths, followed by a low, disturbing growl, as if this thing knew where the dinner was hiding. And then, the door handle on her door began to rattle as this creature was trying to get in. After the rattling of the door handle, loud bangs followed. After the fifth bang, the door flew open. The creature slowly walked in, sniffing the air and growling, trying to get a whiff of where Christy was at in the room. As Christy was looking at the creature's massive clawed feet, she glanced up beside the door when something strange happened. Dookie was crouched down on his mounted wall shelf she'd installed for him. He wasn't hiding at all, surprisingly. His ears were back, and his fur was standing up like he was ready to attack. As the creature moved past the door, a few feet into the room, its head got low and came right to the bottom of the mattress, sniffing heavily. The snout was huge, nostrils flared. It then quickly stood up and stared at Dookie. It let out a low, rattling growl. Dookie didn't move, didn't even flinch. This cat had balls of steel. Just as it was about to attack Dookie, with speed and quickness, Dookie pounced at its face, clawing and ripping into its eyes with a violent fury. Christy got out from under the bed, cocked her shotgun, and got into shooting position. That's when she got a clear view of it. It looked like a werewolf, giant rippling muscles, lean and athletic. The beast was flailing around, trying to rip the wrath of Dookie from its face. Christy let off a round, hitting the creature in its back. Dookie jumped off of its face. It let out a loud, disturbing yelp before turning to face her. Christy let out another round, hitting it square in the chest, sending it flying backwards into the hallway. The creature scrambled to its feet, yelping and whimpering, then ran out of the cabin into the woods. Christy's pulse thudded in her ears from the gun blast. She watched frozen as Dookie calmly trotted next to her, purring and rubbing against her leg like it was just another boring Thursday. Christy gripped the shotgun tighter, stomach twisting. She knew this wasn't over. It would be back shortly with vengeance. She went out to the living room area. Looking through the broken front door, she seen it again about 70 yards, just standing there, teeth showing and growling, bloody matted fur where she had blasted its chest, the hatred in its eyes, aura of revenge seeping through the cold November air. "You want some more, motherfucker?" Christy said as she cocked her shotgun and pointed at it. The creature didn't think twice. It darted to the right of the cabin into the tree line. As she slowly began to walk towards the entrance, to try and secure the entrance, the sound of claws dragging down the siding caught her attention. From the hallway, Dookie casually strolled into the room. Tail straight up, whiskers flicking, the orange cat walked right up to the window and jumped onto the sill. He sat there, still as stone. Christy whispered, "Dookie, what are you doing?" He blinked slowly and licked his paw. Then the kitchen window exploded. Glass shattered inward as the frame burst apart. More cold air blasted through the cabin, carrying a growl so deep it rattled the cabinets. The monster had forced its way in again. Christy blasted at it again, just missing its head by inches. She darted fast to the bathroom, slamming the door shut and throwing the bolt. Her fingers fumbled with the shotgun. She pressed her back to the wall and listened. The thing was inside again, this time furious and ripping the whole cabin apart. Furniture, tables, pacing back and forth in a rage. Heavy footfalls thudded through the living room. Something crashed again, a chair maybe, then the sound of claws scraping across wood. And Dookie? Dookie hadn't run. He hadn't even flinched. Christy risked a peek under the door gap. She could see the edge of the hallway, orange fur moving through it. Dookie strolled past the dogman like he was late for a nap. His paws made no sound on the floorboards. His tail curled slightly, flicking side to side like he was annoyed. The dogman growled again, lower this time. Christy heard it sniffing the air, a loud huff. It was trying to figure out where she was. Then came a pause. The growl stopped. Something shifted. She peeked again. The dogman was crouched now, right in front of Dookie. Massive shoulders, black-bloodied matted fur, claws the size of kitchen knives. It leaned in, sniffed closer. Its nose nearly touched Dookie's face. The cat stared up, totally unbothered. Not a twitch, not a blink. In one slow motion, Dookie raised a single paw and smacked the dogman right across the snout. A clean, open-pawed slap. No claws this time, just a disrespectful thwap. The dogman recoiled, stunned. It actually pulled back, like it didn't know what had just happened. The audacity. Christy's eyes went wide. "Oh my God," she whispered. Dookie sat back down. The dogman's head tilted. It let out a short huff, then its lips pulled back. The growl that followed shook the floor. It lunged. Christy screamed as she heard furniture flip. Paws slammed the floor, claws shredding across the wall. Dookie tore across the room, fast and low, tail flying like a banner. The dogman crashed after him, snarling, knocking over the coat rack, barreling into the table. Christy unbolted the door and sprinted into the hallway, nearly slipping. She had one goal now, get to the front door. Behind her, Dookie darted between chair legs and under shelves like a heat-seeking missile. The dogman was bigger, faster, meaner, but it wasn't built for tight spaces. It roared in frustration every time it slammed into something. The living room was a blur of fur, claws, broken glass, and flying debris. Christy reached the door, snow blue in her face, cold and sharp. Her truck sat in the dark just beyond the porch. She grabbed her sweater from the coat rack and grabbed her keys from the shelf above it. But she didn't leave yet, not without Dookie. She turned back, eyes wild, shotgun shaking in her grip. The wolf creature was ripping through the couch, annoyed, not even focusing on her, trying to reach under it. And Dookie? Well, he was on top of the fridge now, tail flicking, watching the chaos with complete disrespect. Christy shouted, "Dookie, come on!" The cat yawned. The monster roared again, flipping a shelf, sending books and cans flying. Dookie jumped down and darted toward the back hallway, tail high like he was leading it on purpose. Christy stood frozen for 1 second, just one. Then she backed out onto the porch, pulled the door halfway shut, and screamed, "Dookie, move!" Shep eked through with the shotgun barrel and let off another round into the creature's stomach while it was distracted. Inside, more crashing, more growling, more yowling. Then she saw him, bursting from the hallway, zipping past the dogman's legs like a blur of orange lightning carrying his favorite cat toy in his mouth. The creature tried to grab him, claws swiping through the air. Dookie zigzagged, slid across the hardwood, leapt onto the arm of a chair, and dove into Christy's arms. Christy gripped her truck keys, eyes locked on the storm of destruction unfolding in her home, and ran towards her truck. Christy hit the snow running, lungs burning, boots sinking deep with every step. Behind her, the creature roared, louder now, more furious. Her truck waited at the edge of the clearing, half frozen, windows fogged. She jumped into the driver's seat, slammed the door shut, and jammed the key into the ignition. Nothing. She turned it again, still nothing. No, 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 she whispered, eyes alert, darting back and forth, breath clouding the air. She slammed her fist against the wheel. Come on! The engine clicked, sputtered, then finally caught. Headlights lit up the trees. She threw it in reverse and spun the wheel. The tires chewed through the snow, the truck fishtailing. She corrected it and hit the gas. Just before the truck got some momentum, the dogman burst from the cabin entrance, crashing through the porch rail. It was massive, wild-eyed, foam at its jaws, Dookie's claw marks etched into its left eye. It was gaining fast. The dogman lunged, claws out, but the truck jolted forward just in time. It slammed against the tailgate and clawed the back of it, sending a deep thud through the frame. Christy screamed but didn't stop. She steered hard through the snow, tires spitting slush, headlights shaking. The monster gave chase, bounding behind them, smashing branches, roaring so loud it made the windows tremble. Dookie sat calmly beside her, eyes locked on the rear window, totally still. The truck hit a bend and she floored it harder, straightening the wheel. The forest whipped past, a blur of trees and shadow. Behind them, the wolfman creature howled again. Christy didn't look back. She drove. The road twisted through the woods, branches clawing at the windshield. Her hands stayed locked on the wheel, jaw clenched, heart thumping. Dookie didn't move. He just blinked and started licking his chest like it was any other night. Jesus, she breathed. You really don't care about anything. Dookie looked up, gave a slow blink, then turned to stare out the window again. She laughed, exhausted, shaky, the laugh of someone who knew she shouldn't be alive but was. They drove in silence. The deeper into the woods they went, the more the road opened. The forest thinned, the snow lightened. Eventually, she saw headlights ahead. A plow truck crawling down the trail, lights flickering through the trees. She honked, flashed her brights, waving one hand out the window. The truck slowed. An older man in a yellow coat stepped out, holding a flashlight. Hey, you all right? Christy pulled up beside him and rolled the window down. Her hair was a mess, face pale. There's something out here, she said. It broke into my cabin. The man looked over her truck, spotted the dents, the busted mirror, the clawed panels. He stared at Dookie, who blinked back like nothing mattered. The man gave a slow nod. Bear? No, she said, not a bear. He didn't ask again. Come on then, he said. Town's a few miles down. Follow me. She nodded. Yeah, all right. He climbed into his truck and drove. Christy followed, eyes glued to the road, hands trembling. They reached the edge of town just before dawn. Gas station lights buzzed up ahead. A man shoveled snow outside, blinking at the two trucks as they rolled in. Christy pulled up under the awning and shut off the engine. She didn't move for a while, just sat there. She reached over and pulled Dookie into her lap, wrapping him in the blanket from the back seat. He didn't protest. The gas station clerk walked over. You need help? She nodded. Yeah. He opened the door for her. She stepped inside, heat wrapping around her like a wave. She walked to the counter. Dookie curled against her chest and asked for a phone. The clerk handed it over. She dialed the sheriff's office and waited. Her voice was hoarse. I need help. I've been attacked. The deputy on the line asked questions. Her name, her location, what happened. She told him about the break-in, the attack, the cabin. She left out the rest. Didn't say werewolf. Didn't talk about the growling outside the window, or the eyes glowing in the dark. Didn't say how Dookie clawed its face and swiped the thing across the nose and started World War III between them. Just said she escaped and needed help. Later, at the station, they wrapped her in a wool blanket and gave her something hot to drink. An officer asked if she had any family. She looked down at the seat beside her. Dookie was curled tight, tail wrapped around his body, completely passed out. "Yeah," she said, "I do." She didn't go back to the cabin. The Rangers checked it days later, found shattered windows, claw marks in the beams, blood on the floor, large tracks, but nothing else. Christy didn't care. She moved into town, got a small apartment above a bookstore, took a job counseling part-time at a local clinic, saw people on her terms, a quiet life, simple. And Dookie? He slept on the windowsill like royalty, followed her from room to room, still stared into the dark some nights for hours, like he was waiting. Christy kept the doors locked and the shotgun loaded, just in case. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe to Descent into the Unknown for more horror content. If you have any real cryptid encounters, or you're a horror writer wanting to share your stories, please feel free to email me in the description anytime.